All we're saying is you can't carry a gun in town.
I have 2 guns, one for each of you.
For years, Tombstone thrilled fans with its action, unforgettable performances, and iconic lines, but there was something most viewers never realized. Recently, Sam Elliot finally spoke out, revealing a quiet truth that changes everything. His heartfelt confession leaves a deeper, more emotional mark on fans who thought they already knew the full story. When filming began, Elliot was excited to play Virgil Earp. He admired director Kevin Jarre's strong vision and attention to detail, from dialogue to costume choices, and he was proud to be part of the project. But almost immediately, Elliot sensed problems on set. Jarre's old-fashioned approach, favoring long, sweeping shots instead of close-ups, didn't fit the pacing the story needed. By the 3rd day, Elliot knew something wasn't working, and tensions grew as Jarre resisted advice from the crew, including veteran cinematographer William Fraker. Though Elliot adored Jarre's script and respected him as a writer, he feared the heart of the story would be lost if changes weren't made. After about a month of delays, Jarre was dismissed, a painful moment for the cast and crew who had trusted his vision. George P. Cosmatos was brought in as director, but with little preparation time, Kurt Russell quietly stepped into a leadership role, rewriting shot lists, trimming the script, and guiding production. Elliot supported him, though he felt the cuts, nearly 30 pages of character depth and connective scenes, hurt Virgil Earp's role. He admitted later that, had he known how much would be lost, he might have turned down the part. Still, Elliot stayed because he believed in the film and his castmates. The changes shifted the focus toward Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, creating what some called the Kurt and Val show. This left other characters, including Elliot's Virgil and Bill Paxton's Morgan, with less screen time and reduced emotional arcs. Elliot, disappointed but determined, even slipped some of his favorite lines back into scenes to preserve his character's depth. He recalled one night at a bar when someone told him he should have played Wyatt. With a soft, knowing look, Elliot simply replied, "Tell me about it," a moment that revealed his quiet disappointment over the direction the film had taken. In post-production, Cosmatos and the team reshaped the movie further, enhancing color, tension, and emotional beats, but the ensemble nature of Jarre's original vision was gone. Elliot remained proud of Tombstone's success, but always carried the sense of what could have been. Despite the chaos, he stood beside his cast, trusted Russell's leadership, and helped deliver a classic. Yet his reflections remind fans that behind every legendary film, there are untold truths, stories of sacrifice, compromise, and the quiet resilience of actors like Sam Elliot, who fight to preserve the soul of their characters, and drama. Yet even as he felt his characters slipping into the shadows, Sam gave his best. He remained quietly committed during the long shooting days, never openly complaining on set, but his eyes revealed the disappointment he carried. He wasn't the only one who felt it. Other actors shared the same frustration, though they expressed it more cautiously. Michael Biehn admitted that the story was supposed to be about a larger ensemble of characters, but it was suddenly narrowed down to the 2 leads. Powers Booth and Bill Paxton also felt their roles trimmed. Kevin Jarre's original vision had been far more enticing, painting not just the action, but the town, the families, and the lives that made Tombstone truly breathe. Despite this quiet frustration, Sam chose not to walk away. Instead, he stayed and acted, finding subtle ways to preserve his character's dignity and depth. A nod here, a whispered line, or a steady stance. Each gesture reinforced Virgil's sense of duty and his unwavering moral presence. By doing so, Sam kept the heart of his character alive, even as the story shifted toward a leaner, two-hander drama. By the time the film was completed, only about 15 of Jarre's filmed moments remained. George P. Cosmatos had overseen reshoots, adding more color and action to reshape the story, while Kurt Russell coordinated both on- and off-camera efforts to keep the production afloat. Despite the rocky journey, tight deadlines, budget pressures, and creative upheaval, the film was finished and released on time. What emerged was a sharper, emotionally charged Western, very different from Jarre's sprawling original, yet still powerful. This whirlwind of change turned a near collapse into a success story, made possible only because the cast and crew united to preserve the film's soul, even if it meant sacrificing large pieces of its original script. But while the cast worked hard to keep the heart of Tombstone alive, what came next surprised even them. A later part of the directing thrilled most audiences, yet behind the scenes, the truth of how it came together remained hidden. Until now, Kurt Russell's ghost directing. When Kevin Jarre was dismissed, the entire project could have crumbled. Instead, something extraordinary happened. A replacement was found in George P. Cosmatos, but he arrived at the last minute, with barely any time to prepare. Many crew members, still attuned to Jarre's vision, felt lost under the sudden shift in direction. Some even considered quitting, frustrated that Cosmatos seemed to lack an understanding of Jarre's original flow. In this moment of crisis, Kurt Russell quietly stepped into a leadership role. Without ever claiming official credit, he began creating nightly shot lists, handing them to Cosmatos before sunrise. These became the blueprint for each day's filming. Val Kilmer, who played Doc Holliday, saw firsthand the sacrifices Kurt made, giving up sleep, focus, and energy for the sake of the film. In fact, Kilmer even stayed at Kurt's house during filming so they could spend every available minute reshaping the film together. While Kilmer benefited with some of the movie's most memorable lines, he never complained, instead laughing with Kurt as they fought to preserve the story's emotional center. Michael Biehn, who played Johnny Ringo, admitted that Kurt didn't formally direct him, but everyone recognized that Russell had saved the film. He later described the finished product as more of a committee effort, but emphasized that Kurt's quiet guidance was critical. Even fans have woven this into Tombstone's lore, describing how Kurt slipped secret notes, steadied the cast, and refused to let the movie collapse. Though Cosmatos remained the credited director, it was Kurt Russell's unseen vision that shaped Tombstone's emotional arc. He strengthened the bond between Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday, which became the beating heart of the movie. Yet, just when things seemed to be settling, tensions escalated into physical fights, one of which nearly derailed the project. The crew friction. Like many film productions, Tombstone was plagued with behind-the-scenes tension. William Fraker, the veteran cinematographer, brought years of experience, but quickly found himself clashing with both directors. At first, he butted heads with Jarre, who was obsessed with perfection and resisted advice. Later, when Cosmatos took over, new problems arose. Cosmatos was strict, pushing for tight schedules, hard-edged shots, and a relentless pace. The pressure boiled over. Fraker was so frustrated that he tried to quit 3 times. In one infamous clash, he and Cosmatos actually rammed golf carts into each other during an argument. The director's uncompromising style eventually drove away 17 crew members. Still, Fraker stayed, convinced by producer James Jacks and his own love for the project. He later admitted, "If I wasn't happy with how it looked on screen, I wouldn't have stuck around." Meanwhile, the film's budget spiraled. Initially set at $25 million, it quickly ballooned past that figure, all while Disney insisted on hitting the Christmas release date for maximum box office impact. This meant endless reshoots and exhausting schedules. Many of Jarre's original scenes were scrapped, including entire subplots, with only small fragments, like Charlton Heston's appearance, making the final cut. Cosmatos added new sequences, including a grand wedding opening and extra action at the climax. By the end of 88 intense shooting days, the cast and crew were drained but relieved. The movie had gone over budget and over time, but it was finally complete. Post-production was just as frantic, with editors racing to meet the holiday deadline by cutting, polishing, and reshaping the footage. The final Tombstone that hit theaters was sharper, leaner, and faster, more of a modern Western blockbuster than Jarre's envisioned character-driven epic. And while it had lost much of its original depth, it still became something memorable. But behind the success, few people knew about the rivalries and hidden struggles that shaped the movie's legacy. And at the center of it all was another factor, one tied to Kevin Costner. that created one of Tombstone's fiercest rivalries. When Tombstone was gearing up for release in 1993, another film about Wyatt Earp was already circulating, Kevin Costner's Wyatt Earp. This set up a fierce showdown at the box office. Costner had originally been asked to take the lead in Tombstone, but he decided instead to focus on his own version. He strongly believed his pipes. Reject should be all about Earp himself, not the group saga that Tombstone was shaping up to be. Once he shifted gears, Costner became a powerful force in Hollywood, one of the most influential figures at the time. He reportedly went around to major studios, urging them to pass on distributing Tombstone, and even worked through his agency to block the film's path. His efforts nearly shut down Tombstone's chances, except for one holdout, Disney's Buena Vista, which decided to move forward and distribute it. But Costner didn't stop there. In what some later called a costuming land grab, he reserved most of the Western outfits and props in Hollywood to hobble Tombstone's production. This forced Tombstone's crew to search overseas for period attire. Ironically, they found the wardrobe in Europe, the same place where the real Tombstone's wealthier townsfolk once bought theirs. Even after all these obstacles, the film pushed ahead. Kurt Russell grabbed the lead role and watched the film's crew adapt and innovate around Costner's blockades. They reworked production plans, sourced costumes abroad, and stayed focused on getting the movie made. Once released on December 24, 1993, Tombstone stunned audiences and critics. Built on a modest $25 million budget, it earned over $56 million in North America alone, eventually grossing more than $76 million worldwide. It beat expectations and firmly established itself in Western movie lore. 6 months later, Wyatt Earp premiered with high expectations, but with its bloated $63 million budget and nearly 3-hour runtime, critics found it slow and joyless. Roger Ebert famously said it felt like they had pumped Tombstone full of hot air. Its box office reflected that criticism, bringing in only about $55.9 million globally, short of its budget. Even Costner admitted he regretted going head-to-head with Tombstone, calling the rivalry a misstep he wished he had avoided. Fans haven't forgotten either. On Reddit, one popular thread summarized, Costner tried to blacklist Tombstone and hoarded all the Western costumes in Hollywood. Yet in the end, Tombstone came out stronger, made more money, and left Wyatt Earp in its dust. With this huge win, it's clear that what really stands out is how Tombstone overcame these aggressive tactics: studio blacklisting, costume shortages, and production sabotage, to connect deeply with audiences. It wasn't just luck. Kurt Russell and the team hustled, found creative solutions, and focused on delivering a compelling story. Fired, but he stayed, realizing the film was still worth salvage. Meanwhile, Billy Bob Thornton appeared briefly as a bully at the OK Corral, adding a sharp edge to Wyatt's authority. One of the film's major set pieces, the gunfight at the OK Corral, was meticulously planned. Dozens of stunt performers took part, and multiple takes were required for the tight choreography. Another highlight was Doc Holliday's speech, which reviewers later celebrated. But many of his best lines were improvised by Val Kilmer, making the moment feel raw and unforgettable. Even the smallest details got attention. Every actor except John Tenney grew real mustaches for authenticity, while Tenney wore a fake because he needed a clean shave for another project. After 88 hard days of shooting, the film wrapped in late August 1993. Then came a frantic post-production period to meet the release deadline. Editors raced through sound mixing, cuts, and reshoots to finalize the film by Christmas. On December 24th, the movie reached theaters. Soon, it developed a passionate fan base. People highlighted Val Kilmer's wit, to the extent that many of his lines now feel like part of our everyday language, and Kurt Russell's fiery, determined Wyatt. Over time, Sam Elliott's quiet performance as Virgil gained appreciation for bringing a steady moral center to the story. The film's legacy endures, redefining modern westerns with clever dialogue, layered characters, and unforgettable style. 25 years later, it's still cited as one of the best westerns ever made, and praised for breathing new life into the genre. Since then, a director's cut and new home video editions, including a 4K release scheduled for April 2025, have given fans a deeper look into the story's origins and production. The special features include storyboards, behind-the-scenes featurettes, and interviews that shed light on the original vision and the journey behind the camera. However, Tombstone isn't just remembered for its gunfights or famous lines. It's treasured for how it brought together great actors, a bold script, and determined filmmaking to reach the finish line under pressure. It stands as proof that when a team cares deeply, even storms behind the scenes can't stop the story from shining. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.